Hey Muji, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine, sir. How are you?
Good, good.
Very good.
So I've been following you since 2020. I came up on a video of you on YouTube. Um, and 2020 was a year for me where I guess I had a conceptual awakening at that moment because I was reading Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And then once I started to read, I started to become more curious and like nothing else like fulfill me. Nothing could like, can it could give me nothing. So I was always just reading, 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 and I just couldn't find anything until I found you.
Mm.
So I guess the whole time I was just looking for the truth. I was searching for the truth.
Yes.
And that truth that you relayed to me through your words, it touched my heart. And I am forever grateful for my inner guru to introduce me to my earthly guru. So I appreciate you and I love you. And I just thank you for just your continuous guidance as I continue to go through my journey because I still in a process of integrating uh, the presence through my daily life.
Ah,
Because once I had that initial insight through meditation, I thought it was over. I thought it was done. But
mm,
then go back into the real world, and
mm,
the mind comes back and hits the mind attacks.
mm.
And so now the integration process is my meditation, like just going through daily
Let's
life.
take it from there, sir. Let's take it from there. Returning to the real or the unreal world, whichever way you want to say it. I'd prefer
Yeah.
to say a bit unreal because I say unreal because it is a highly subjective experiencing. So much so that whatever you may perceive of the phenomenal world, the mind takes it to be a kind of foundation and that is solid. But you see that as you change, your world change. As you experience deeper states of consciousness, the world that you perceive is transformed by your inner transformation. You see? So I am aroused a little bit when you say, I almost try now to integrate these two. And I want to look at that because to find what you mean by integrating the two.
Integrating meaning uh, to continue to not identify with things that's coming up.
That's good.
Like,
No, that's good. That's
yeah,
better.
yeah,
You see, if
yeah,
you don't identify emotionally or deeply with whatever is arising, then there's nothing to actually physically participate in integrating. It becomes integral. You see, this is why I wanted to go in there a little bit with you to find what do you mean by integrating, with the unreal world, because you don't need to integrate with any unreal world. If you are real, then your worldview, everything will somehow it will prostrate to the real. But as long as we have a conception of ourselves as this ever changeful being trying to get somewhere, we are a victim to these seeming cause and effects patterns of the manifest world, because we will include ourselves as part of the dynamic world that is ever changing and so on. Now, an aspect of ourselves is manifesting as a person navigating through life. And that person is growing from its experience, becoming more and more refined. But if that personal sense is traveling in a journey that went on for years and years and refining its understanding, but ultimately it just becomes a refined person if it holds on to the notion of itself as a person. So therefore, when I say observe, include the sense of one's person, which is also supported by our imagination and desire and identity, see, include all of that. as one sphere or plane of manifest phenomenon, watched from a place that cannot be identified phenomenally, but you intuitively know the sense of being. I may call it a sense of presence. I may say it's the place where impersonal witnessing is functioning. I may call it the I amness. I may call it the sense of being or consciousness, but impersonal. The person becomes somehow a victim of its own projections. The self is not projecting. It is simply, on everything, is reflecting to itself its own stillness. And I want to clarify, because once we are imbued strongly with the identity of the person is a restless state, searching for rest in fulfilling its projections, which it never happens. You see? It just moves from one state to another state to another state. You see? It's like having an idea that the ocean is only purely ocean when it's calm. So when the wind blows and the water is shaking, you say, oh, now it's not quite the ocean. The self is not like that, the true self, which you are. And so I'm only calling to be here in that unchanging place. If we have a strong conviction in personhood, then the attraction to come into the unchanging being is not so easy. This is why sometimes suffering and pain accelerate your receding back into the place of stillness. Mm-hmm. You see, once we have the power and the strength and the desire, it is always going out through the senses and the mind, the creative mind. Our energies is going out to do something, to capture something, to control something, to balance something. But from the place of being, you watch, and the beingness is not observing the world like an interesting movie. The world becomes like a mirror that's constantly reflecting the stillness. So even in the midst of activity, it's like you are the stillness in the heart of activity. Have you come to this recognition? Because I believe you have. I just want to check in with you.
Yes. I used to be attached to the spaciousness, the I am presence. I used to be attached to that.
Yeah.
And then I remember listening to one of your sax songs, and you said, you're not even that.
Yeah.
And so I was going through a loop in my head for like a month. Yeah. And like, hold on, what do you mean I'm not that? Like, what do you mean I'm not that? So it was just a loop. And then I said, hold on. I'm the one that's actually watching that. Because I kept trying to turn my perceiving around to myself, but it's impossible.
Wonderful.
I am that.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm happy you say. I'm so happy you say this. You see, because the very thing you say, I had at one point in my life, I was very confident that I'd reached my state, and I had read something. I came across a saying by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, where he spoke very much of that earlier than the I am, and it so disturbed me. It totally disturbed me. Almost for a moment, my reaction at that stage was like, "Whoa, I don't want to hear about this," because it disrupted my cozy sense of realization. You see, but it disturbed me so much, and that was my blessing, because I had to keep probing into this to find what does he mean. I could not find anywhere. What does he mean? How dare you say that? You see. So you continue looking, and if you say you try and turn around your I amness, which is looking out towards the world and everything, to see if it can see, it cannot see this. It itself becomes seen. But I didn't want to say this too early, because there's a tendency of the intellect, which is still under the sway of the egoic identity, that feels, oh, if he's saying that there's more than the I am, I'm going straight for this. But it has not conquered its own I am as the person yet. This is the dilemma. This is the trick that can happen for the intellect of the person that feels, no, if he said that there's something beyond that, I'm going for that. But he hasn't lost his I as a person yet. So therefore, I say, you keep observing the sense of person from the place of the no person. The sense I am or beingness is not a person. If it is not if it is a person, it is the divine person. It's the beingness. It is the Christ consciousness or the Buddha being or whatever you want to call it. It is the sense of being. As you keep being aware of the world without logging into it, the fullness of your I am returns. And it is grounded. It is a place of pure joy and peace and stillness and love. Then you gradually begin to, as I was saying this morning, begin to also learn to observe the beingness. That's more subtle. You will not be able to do that if you're in a state of strong sense of personhood, because the personhood goes out from there outward towards the world. But then you realize that the person is also a shape arising in front of the shapeless. I hope, I don't know how many people are present in this level of the conversation now, but you continue like that. What became curious for me in your talking was about integrating something. And I felt that's not an action that can be taken. That happens automatically. Because remember that the Supreme Consciousness has already integrated everything. There's no person can come to integrate anything. If he's going to integrate, he must integrate himself into emptiness, not into somethingness. Because you're going back into the wilderness of wilderness, maybe not wilderness, maybe jungle of names and forms, you see. And please be reminded, everyone, that we are not having a fight with the manifest world. We're not saying life is no good and all these things that mean nothing. It is no emotional dismissal or cynicism towards the world, but simply seeing this, and we have somehow found it very natural to integrate with the earthly existence and with personal projections and personal intentions and so on. But something must have been built, something is inside us that questioned that at some point, either through experience or through deep sorrow or frustrations, help to turn the attention within. Your journey, your real journey begins within. And with this withinness, you begin to discover the capacity to observe with detachment. Is this of any value to you, Brandon?
A whole lot of value, And I just want to say that, like, everything that you've told me conceptually, when I started to, like, just continue to go on my path, like, I started to, like, really, like, experience it.
Yeah.
Like, when I meant by integrating, like, going out to the world, like, you know how you have the juicy thoughts and your attention goes into the juicy thoughts?
Yes.
Well, now it's like, now when I go out into the world, I sometimes get attached to the attention gets attached to the juicy thought, but then a negative thought will come in and it will wake me right back up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, it would just like, oh, I fell asleep for a second and I would just get right back up. So I enjoy that, because it's like, oh, I'm like, basically it's burning the identity of all these things.
Yes.
It's burning it.
Before you said I enjoy that, something came to me. Don't enjoy it too much.
Okay.
Understand? Because sometimes we can become addicted to the states of, this, and then we keep an identity to keep enjoying that. Make use of it. Make use of it until somehow you find yourself in the effortless. And the effortless It's beyond enjoying and non-enjoying. It's beyond the play of interrelated opposites. You understand? And nevertheless, of course, you can go into life, into any aspect of life that you find yourself, and you'll find that you are not compromised in your seeing. And everything is become more spontaneous. We don't have to somehow trying to twist life to fit a shape of our projections, because you're without projections. At least, I cannot put the truth into words. I'm happy that you say the concepts that you have gained from me. But those concepts must combust into spirit, meaning that they cannot just be held as shapes and ideas that we, like in some reservoir, that you turn to take what you want out of it. It is automatically one with your being.
Yeah. And the investigation happens spontaneously. It happens on its own.
Yes. Very good. I'm very happy to talk with you, Brandon.
Thank you. I'm happy just to be in your presence.
Yes. Very good. You will hear from me. I love you. Okay. Thank you. Wonderful.
Love you.
Wonderful.
Thank
wonderful.
You.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you. Very good.